Well, welcome. It's a joy to be with you. It's a joy to speak about the Platinum Rule. Platinum Rule. Generally, we hear about the Golden Rule. And when we look at the rule, the Golden Rule, what is it if you boil it down to its essence but that rule which tells us how to do unto others such that others are happy? That's its essence. And it's curious because as part of the Golden Rule project, which I have participated in with Global Faith in Action, I'm a board member of this interfaith group that Sam Meiskens formed, Global Faith in Action. And my favorite expression of the Golden Rule comes from Hillel, the rabbi. And basically he says, the story goes that Hillel was approached by someone who required him to tell that person who was thinking of converting to Judaism, tell me the essence of Judaism while you stand on one leg. In other words, quickly. And it's reported that Hillel replied, standing on one leg, "That which is hateful unto you, do not do to your neighbor. This is the whole of the Torah. The rest is commentary. Go forth and study." And I've always thought that was the best expression of the Golden Rule. And in researching this talk, I discovered that that's known as the Silver Rule, because it's expressed in the negative. Do not do that which is hateful unto others. That's a negative. So the Golden Rule is considered more precious because it's positive. Do unto others as you would have done unto you. Now, I want to start talking about relationships between precious metals. I went online and I looked at, what silver costs and what gold costs. And gold is 40 times more precious than silver. So it's considered that positive gesture of doing to others what you would like done unto you is much more valuable than not doing that which is harmful. But of course, we're not talking about the Silver Rule. We're not talking about the Golden Rule. We're talking about the Platinum Rule. And sometimes the Platinum Rule is articulated as a commingling or an amalgamation of the silver and the golden. Do unto others as they would have done unto them. This is the Platinum Rule. Do unto others as they would have done unto them. And we're going to look at that, but before we do, how much more valuable than gold is platinum? Anyone know? Lots. Jennifer says lots. Any more specific knowledge? Okay, no jewelers here. 3 times more precious than gold is platinum. Oh, gold is very precious. Well, what's wrong with the Golden Rule? Anyone know the old saw? The definition of a sadist? A masochist who's following the Golden Rule. Or what's wrong with the Golden Rule? Picture the guy who goes into a bar looking for a fight. The Golden Rule has its drawbacks, doesn't it? Because the Golden Rule is predicated on assumptions that we understand what it is that another desires, because we understand what we desire. But we live in a world that is so filled with diversity, and clearly there are people who are different than us in ways that we don't really fathom. And so there is now this discourse about the Platinum Rule. Because unlike the Golden Rule, the standard is not judged by reference to ourself alone. I don't want to be punched in the nose, so they don't want to be punched in the nose. I don't want to go hungry, so they don't want to go hungry. Well, that's true, sure. But I want religion to be part of my child's experience in school. Well, maybe my next door neighbor doesn't. So it gets a little complex when we take into consideration the fact that others are other. And other means different, individual, autonomous. My favorite living English language poet is Robin Williamson. In 2007, we went to visit Robin in Wales. My wife was pregnant with Tamal at that time. Figured we wouldn't be jumping over the pond any time after his birth too soon, so we went to see Robin. These are words that Robin wrote from a beautiful song, Queen of Love. Shall I now put lion's ears upon my ears and hear every sound as a roar? Shall I now put mouse's eyes upon my eyes and gauge the moon for size against my paw? These are some of the things that are wrong with the golden rule. So, happiness is the intent of somebody who's invoking these rules. Okay? We want to act unto others so that those others are happy. But that raises the question, what is happiness? What is happiness? Is happiness getting what we want? Anyone who works in a leadership position, maybe as a mother or a father, parenting is a form of leadership. You know that often enough, the person who is your ward, the person who is your heart's joy, wants that which, if they got it, they would become very unhappy because they don't understand its nature. So, is getting what we want going to produce happiness? Is being imposed upon going to produce happiness for us? No, none of these things is in and of itself going to produce that. What the Platinum Rule really deeply understands is that if I want to do unto others as they would have done unto them, I have to get to know others. I have to ask them. And in that exchange, we may grapple with the idea that, well, from where I stand and how I have experienced the world, the thing that you aspire to will probably not produce the happiness that you expect it will. And if that discussion is engaged in patiently, lovingly, acknowledging the other person as having a different point of view that you're interested in understanding so that you can get to know this person, so that in your dealings with that person will be happy, then that is the living reciprocity of the Platinum Rule. It's a reciprocal relationship. And it asks of the person who wishes to invoke it that we get to know the other. What more urgent business do we have in today's world than to get to know the other? Recently, I spoke the invocation at the city council's meeting, and I made that point that it's the height of irresponsibility in this day and age to not know what a Muslim thinks, or a Jew thinks, or a Wiccan thinks, or a Buddhist thinks, or a Hindu thinks. Fill in the blank. Someone who believes differently, who worships differently, who doesn't worship, or whatever. The other. If that person remains an enigma, a cipher, an unknown to you, you're being irresponsible. And why? That person is living next door to you today. In our world, the person is living next door to you today because they have converted to fill in the blank, or because they have emigrated here from where that is the norm, or because They're connected to you, although they're physically distant, they're connected to you by the shrinking of space, the folding of space by our cybernetic world. What happens in New York is known to everybody within a few minutes if it's a big deal. What happens in Beijing is known to everybody in the world in a few minutes if it's a big deal. We live in a global village. We need to know each other. We need to understand each other. As I have studied religions, I have always sought to read about Judaism from a rabbi. I don't want to hear what a Protestant or a Catholic or some other person thinks about Judaism. I want to know what a few rabbis, for whom it's their life and soul, what they think about Judaism. When I wanted to study Wicca and paganism, I read Starhawk. I read The Spiral Staircase. What is it called? The Spiral Dance. Thank you. The Spiral Dance. It was in the 1990s that I read that. So I'm sorry, The Spiral Dance. I was very inspired by it. I was very enlightened by it. And Donna Reed had a film that I also watched. So I want to know what the other feels, how the other behaves, and why from their perspective as much as possible. This, to me, is the platinum rule. And platinum is more valuable than gold. Or platinum rule is the silver rule. Don't do the harmful unto someone. That which you would hate done unto you, don't do that to someone. That's the silver rule. Oh, I like that. That's great. But do unto others as you would have done unto you. That's also great. And it is or becomes the platinum rule when you are careful enough to think, I don't want done unto me that which offends me, so the other doesn't want done to them what offends them, but I don't know them well enough to know what that might be until I ask. So I'm going to ask. I'm going to learn. I'm going to get to know the other. And then the other will turn out to be brother or mother or sister or father. Because that's the journey of self-discovery. That in reaching out to shake hands, to embrace, to have community with others, we discover that which is common to us all. So I want to kind of wind up here. This church is an extraordinary church because it is rooted in an extraordinary tradition. The tradition of Unitarianism, the tradition of Universalism, they married each other in the 60s, But they're always kin because they wanted to be progressive. They wanted to keep pace with the evolution of human experience. And so they were heretical. And what is heresy? But to question. And in questioning, get better answers than the answers that already were there, that were stifling or suffocating or produced the opposite effect than what they were meant to do. Donna Reed's film that I saw was called The Burning Church, and it was a pagan response to the intoleration of the indigenous European religions by Christianity. That is what Unitarians and Universalists were always questioning. Universalists were questioning hell forever? Really? God, all good, almighty, all loving, produced hell and puts people there forever? Now, how does that work? How does that reflect all knowing, all loving, and all powerful, and all good? It doesn't add up. Questioning. Or Jesus saying, the things that I do, you can do, and greater. And then this idea that Jesus has another nature that you don't have. And you cannot do it. How does that add up? It doesn't add up. So our tradition has sought better answers, more practical answers, answers that allow us to love one another and to do unto each other that which makes us happy. That my actions should be pleasing and edifying and helpful to you, and that your actions should be pleasing and edifying and helpful to me. That is who the Unitarian Universalist is. And that's who we are. That community that is dedicated to that idea, that principle, and that practice that says, I want to get to know you. You don't have to hide out. You just have to be here with me, and I have to be here with you, and let us get to know each other. Now, we are about to embark on a series of covenanting ideas. After we do what Charles was talking about, we hear from Michael Doral, and please come, as Charles urged you, I'm also urging you. Michael is a UU, but he's worked with many churches other than UU churches, and in every case, what he does is he helps the churches be really stable and prosperous. And we want to be stable and prosperous because we house, or we embody as persons, these ideals and principles. And once we have heard from Michael about securing our financial stewardship, our foundational basis for keeping our doors open and everything happening that needs to happen so that people are comfortable and well served when they come here, then we want to and will learn about covenanting with each other. And part of that covenant has to be this platinum rule. And I don't think we need to wait. We can do that now. Today, tomorrow, and the next day. Get to know one another. I mean, maybe you're sitting next to somebody, you don't even know their name. You could say, hello, my name is... And in doing that, we do it in that spirit of, I know a little bit about myself. I'm learning more, but I know a little bit about myself. I know less about this person. Maybe if I knew more about this person, they might help me know more about myself. That's the payoff. The payoff in any of these rules is that we discover who we are. We are those integers of consciousness, those exponents of reality that want to give love and receive love. If we're able to give love and we're able to receive love, we're happy. If we have the most beautiful car, an airplane, 5 or 10 houses, boats, and millions, but we're frustrated and unable to give love and unable to receive love, we cannot be happy. History is so filled with people who miss the boat on happiness. It's all about giving love and receiving love. So we need to, if we want to be happy, get to know each other and find out what it is that the other person needs from us and learn how to do that. And I'll just say one other thing. I wanted to say this. Maybe you've heard me say it before. Recently, I was talking with my wife, and she said to me, such and such and so and the other thing. And when I heard it, I got really uptight. I really got uptight. And I started to say what I always would say. What you said made me feel. But I'd been listening to compassionate communication workshops. I'd been reading nonviolent communication, Observe, feel, help me out. Observe, feel, need, recognize your needs, and then articulate a desire, make a request. Did I leave a step out there? I'm good, okay. So I thought, okay, I observed what happened. I went crazy. I heard blah, 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 and I went crazy. Okay. And then I felt, I'm scared. I'm really afraid. I don't like that. And then I thought, what is my need? My need is to not be afraid and to respond to my wife, who I know loves me very dearly, in a constructive way. So I had a request. instead of saying, what you said made me feel, I said, when you said what you said, I felt afraid. Because, and then I explained why. And I don't remember the request, but the point that I'm making here is, I think maybe I didn't get to the request. To be totally honest, I'm still learning about nonviolent communication. It was a miracle that I got to express my need, and instead of blaming my wife. And it worked like a charm. Instead of feeling blamed by me, which would have taken the whole conversation way south, and we would never have gotten where we did get that day, I learned how to do what I always wanted to do. Hear what my wife has to say to me and remain peaceful and joyful. And respond to her in a way that she remained peaceful and joyful. In other words, we need some finesse in being Unitarian Universalist. You can't just declare that, oh, well, I want to love everybody and I want to be peaceful and I want to be joyful and it's all done. No, there's some hard work. There's some rolling up the sleeves. There's some learning. And so we have to learn about this platinum rule, this amalgamation of the silver and the gold, this getting to know each other so that we can love each other, give love and receive love. That's my message for today. Thank you very much.